Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Michael and Louis Late at Night. Yes, I said it. Last time it was daytime, but this time is nighttime.
Yep,
it is around 2100.
2112 to be exact.
2112. On what would you say? 75 degrees, 70 degrees out?
According to the weather app, it's beautiful, comfortable 69.
69.
69 with a light breeze from the west. Absolute gorgeous evening tonight.
Is that what the app says?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm
Nice.
looking at the weather app.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. Yeah, it is Sunday, July 7th, 2112. And I guess this evening we've decided to talk a little about homeowners associations and their...
Oh, that's what they stand for? I thought they stood for Hazardous of America. Because they're a hazard.
They might as well stand for Hazards of America. They don't seem to serve much of a purpose these days. But anyways, I did a lot of reading. And, you have your charters, your bylaws, your architectural review boards, etc. All these governing documents that you're given. And it's a two-pronged contract, as you should know, because you and your wife own in an HOA, and my wife and I own in an HOA or two. And I find it very interesting, to say the least, when you sign on, you agree to follow all the rules in the charter, the bylaws, ARB, community guidelines. And the second side of that contract is the fiduciary members of the board that fill a fiduciary position are supposed to enforce these rules and regulations equally and evenly across the board.
So before you go more in depth in what you're about to say, give me a brief understanding of the word fiduciary.
Fiduciary means they have a legal obligation. It's even though it's a volunteer position, you still have an obligation to execute or do your job. It's
I thought fiduciary was more along the lines of they have to follow the law in a way where they benefit the customer.
So fiduciary, it's an adjective. Law involving trust, especially with regard to the relationship between a trustee and a beneficiary.
Right.
The company has a fiduciary duty to shareholders.
Right.
So essentially, what it means is a fiduciary is someone who manages money or property for someone else. When you're named a fiduciary and accept the role, you must, by law, manage a person's money and or property for their benefits, not for yours. So essentially, elected officials, board members, a board of directors has a legal obligation to act on the better interest or the best interest of the homeowners. Now, here's the catch, and this is where it gets kind of finicky, I guess. Board of directors are typically homeowners in the association themselves.
Right.
So for a homeowner association board of directors to not act properly in a manner or make decisions properly or in a manner that benefits the association as a whole, it includes themselves. So I'll just give a rough example, but if a board of directors decides to, I don't know, impose fines on one or two homeowners for not pressure washing their driveway,
Okay.
when it says it in the bylaws, and then they don't impose fines or fees against other neighbors who don't pressure wash their driveways, not only is it discriminating, it's selective enforcement, which is illegal. You're not allowed to do that.
Understood.
And I mean, that's just a simple example. It's not going too far into the weeds or anything, but my folks who live in the Carolinas, they live in a homeowners association. I think theirs operates a little bit better than the one that you and I originated out of.
Right.
But I will say that HOAs across the board as a collective whole, especially in the state of Florida, state of Georgia, are exceptionally subpar because they're always making decisions for the community that do not reflect equally the majority.
Also, they're making decisions for themselves to put themselves first,
You're not wrong.
which totally goes against that fiduciary, status that they should have.
So I served on a board of directors in the state of Hawaii for a couple of years when I was stationed out there with the Navy.
Is that how it's properly pronounced?
Hawaii, yes. Most people will say Hawaii
Yeah.
because that's just the generic, I'll just say it. Mainlanders, Hawaiians call them haoles.
But whoever's been there knows that is Hawaii.
Yes.
This is new to me. I didn't know.
Yes, so it's Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And when you look at the map of Oahu, you'll notice a place, it's spelled EWA Beach. A lot of people say Iwa Beach. It's actually Ewa Beach, which means west. So
Interesting.
yeah, being stationed out there as long as I was, I got to know the Hawaiian culture. Beautiful islands, beautiful place, beautiful people, wonderful people. Everybody out there is auntie or uncle, so it's very family oriented. But anywho, back to the original point is I served on 2 different board of directors in Hawaii, and it humbled me a lot because I was sort of out for myself for a while. Having a condo or a single family standalone home out there. And I learned that you have to make decisions that are for the betterment of the majority, and meaning the vast majority, not just if you have 100 people in an HOA, you're not making a decision that benefits 25 or 30. You're making a decision that easily benefits, I believe, 66.6%.
Right.
2/3 majority is what I believe most states' laws require. But I did notice that when I was out there, I'll just say it, we ended up in court, both HOAs that I was a board member of.
In Hawaii?
Yes, we ended up in court for, I don't remember, they were petty things, but it turned out that the board made decisions that either contradicted the bylaws and the charters that we had, or the board preferred something different than what the homeowners were doing. I'll just give you a quick example. One of the homes in the neighborhood that I used to live in, the charter bylaws, if you will, stated every several years you should paint your home. Give it a fresh coat of paint.
Any specific colors?
The way the bylaws were written, as long as you weren't the same color as like a house 2 or 3 doors down from you, you could change your color, but typically most people kept their colors the same. If you wanted to change the color scheme of the property, you could. You just had to make sure that there weren't 3 or 4 houses together with 2 of them with the same color scheme, if you will.
Okay, but I've seen some HOAs where they don't allow like extravagant colors, let's put it that way, like a purple house. It like corrupts the whole mantra or the whole vibe of the neighborhood.
Correct. It depends on the HOA bylaws and charter, how you can do it. It can't be something that sticks out like a sore thumb or something,
right.
Something that deteriorates or takes away from property value. It has to be something that complements things or adds to, if you will. So anyways, the bylaws that we had stated the homeowners should paint their home every several years. Well, several could mean 7, it could mean 6, it could mean 8 years. It's not the number 7, it says several. And this home hadn't been painted in 11 or 12 years. So I went by the home to take a look at it as the board president had asked me to. And he said...
So did you serve a role in this HOA, or were you just doing a favor to this?
No,
the president?
I was one of the board members. There were 7 board members. I was one of several.
Okay.
7 board members, and so I went to the house, and the house looked beautiful. The house, I mean, you could tell it wasn't brand new, freshly painted, but you could tell it was well maintained. The homeowners took pride in it. They probably pressure washed it every now and then just to keep it up to snuff, but it looked better in my eyes than homes that had been painted a year or 2 ago. So I took some pictures and I from the street, and I told the rest of the board, I said, I don't see any reason for them to have to paint their home. It looks better than homes that were painted 2 or 3 years ago. There's no reason for them to paint it. So we did a vote as to whether or not we were going to pursue them with a fine, and 4-3 or 5-2 majority was to fine them. I was one of the ones that said, I don't agree with this. We ended up in court because the homeowner was smart and well-educated, and we went to court, and the HOA ended up having to pay the homeowner a lot of money for the inconvenience, and based on the pictures of newly painted homes that we knew were recently painted.
See, so that's something unnecessary that should have been brought up, and maybe it did get brought up in the voting process. Like, hey, we shouldn't pursue this because we might get sued, and the guy has a decent house, it's painted, and we will bring more problems upon ourselves.
And I tried to bring that up. The homeowner appealed the fine, went through the entire process, which took several months, and then the board voted again, and this time it was only a 4-3 majority to impose the fine. And at that board meeting, I stood up and I said, look, I told the homeowner, I was like, I do not agree with this. And after the board meeting was done, I told him, I was like, if you want to pursue this in court, you go right ahead. You're going to win. And we learned a painful lesson. I don't remember how much the homeowner got, but essentially they asked for the value of it to be professionally painted. Just, I'm going to spitball a rough figure. It's Hawaii, so stuff isn't exactly cheap out there. So they probably received anywhere for $7,000, $5,000 to $7,000 worth of a professional paint job on the home.
Wow.
Plus,
what year is this?
This was...
That's a hefty amount for a paint, unless it's the houses, because I'm pretty sure the price fluctuates upon the size of the home.
This was one of the larger homes in the community. This was like this was a 4 or 5 bedroom home.
Okay.
With a decent garage. It was a decent enough size home where it would take the better part of a day or 2 or 3, depending on weather and if they can put the proper shielding on it. But anyways, short and sweet of it is, I've been on the receiving end of it as a board member, so I feel that, from my honest opinion and my own experiences, I feel that homeowner associations are almost a moot point. I know that they're supposed to serve a very sound purpose, but I feel that they abuse their power and authority too much, and the whole, I'm a member of the board of directors, I can do what I want to do, or I don't like this homeowner because he or she is young and maybe a little cocky or headstrong and doesn't want to agree with us or get in line. No, that's not the way it should work. If you're not going to follow your own charter or bylaw to the T and equally enforce it across the board, then you have failed as a board member. And I feel that the bulk of HOAs in the state of Florida, which I love Florida personally, Georgia, another good state, but the HOAs there are very subpar. I feel most of them are very... they contradict themselves. They don't serve their ultimate purpose, especially when it comes to... I'll just give you a somewhat recent example. I'm not going to name the homeowners association, but there's an HOA, possibly in the state of Florida, that... yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this, but...
Yeah.
They ultimately... They allowed the construction of a fence that was not built to the land development code or the building code. And there was no permit for it. There was no ARB, Architectural Review Board, approval for it by the HOA, by the ARB committee. And when a certain homeowner brought this up multiple times over several months with a solution so that all parties would win, it was just to redo the fence so it would be up to code, up to the building code, up to the land development code, up to snuff. And that homeowner was shamed publicly, was belittled, degraded, bullied, did everything right. Him and his wife did everything they were supposed to do.
Okay.
And that more or less may be going to court. And I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a slam dunk for that homeowner. That board of directors is going to walk out of that courtroom whenever that goes to court. They're going to walk out of the courtroom like dogs with their tails between their legs, realizing, wow, we just got our, what's handed to us. And rightfully so.
Okay. So how do we fix this? How do we fix HOAs? Give me what would you do to fix all of the HOAs in the world, or most of them? Like a strategy.
In the world or in the United States?
Hey, just HOAs, anywhere. in a community,
So
in a development, anywhere.
So
What do you think?
I'm a instructional type individual as you are. Like what the book says is what you do, and if you have a recommendation on how to make something better, you submit something. You submit a form, or you put it out there publicly at a public forum, i.e. a board meeting or something, saying, hey, I don't agree with this. It's kind of moot. I think we should do this instead. Like, for example, if your bylaws say you are not legally allowed to park in the streets, well, why does that exist? Why is that part of the rules? Well, if all the driveways fit comfortably at least 2 vehicles, and you have a garage that fits at least 1 or 2 vehicles, that's 2 to 4 guaranteed parking spots that you have on your property that are off the street.
Right.
And if the streets are not wide enough to support, say, emergency vehicles to safely transit up and down the streets without having to bob and weave through a bunch of vehicles that are parked on opposite sides of the street, making it so that even maybe a half-ton pickup truck can't safely navigate, then yeah, there's a reason why that bylaw exists, that you cannot park in the street. However, a mitigation for that, in my opinion, would be maybe have vehicles park on one side of the street that does not have a sidewalk affiliated with it. That way, you still have room to safely navigate. You know, there's always a way to present positive change. That's just one example, if you will. But
still, you're just saying that the people on the board have to abide by the bylaws or
but they don't.
the regulation. Right, but that's not the question. The question is, how do we fix the HOA problem, which is the people that getting there get too powerful or get too cocky or arrogant or whatever you want to call it, and they abuse their power. How about, this is what I propose.
Okay.
How about we make the board people that don't live in the neighborhood and they're hired for that position? How about we do that? That way they have no interest in any business, any topics, and they can just make decisions neutrally, like neutral decisions. Because if you have people that live in the neighborhood, then it's like they're kind of biased.
So,
you know?
I like where you're going with that. It's not a bad idea. What I would say is, if you're going to do something like that, I would say that HOAs have an independent property management company that directs
All HOAs? Most. Okay.
Should have a property management company manage them with a panel of 3 to 5 people that do not live in the HOA, that can independently and neutrally, no skin in the game whatsoever, look at the charters, look at the bylaws, look at the ARB guidelines, look at everything and say, does this make sense? And if there's things in there that make sense, I say, okay, cool, check that. If there's things that do not make sense or that they feel need to be adjusted or updated, they put an announcement out, hey, board meeting, this time, this date, this location at the clubhouse or at the cabana or wherever the board meetings are. And for those that cannot attend, mail in by proxy or email.
Mail-in ballots.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I knew you were going to go there. You're such a smart ass.
You brought it up.
You know what I mean, though. But electronic voting, by email or something.
Yes.
That
or
way,
poll
that
or
way,
whatever.
That way, the property management company, their independent board can say, hey, these 3, 4, or 5 segments of your bylaws don't make sense. This is what we recommend you change it to, and this is why it doesn't make sense, and this is what we recommend you change it to, and why we recommend you change it. That way you get your 2/3 majority vote from the homeowner saying, oh yeah, that does make sense, or oh yeah, we agree with you, or no, we don't agree with you, we want to leave it like that. That way these items are being brought up that could be issues, but they're being brought up by a neutral, independent third party that has no gain from it, if you will.
So wait, I've never been to a HOA meeting or whatever, or
Don't waste
convening of the board, whatever the hell. How do they go? So shouldn't it be, let's convene a meeting and then all of the people that show up vote? Who ultimately makes the decisions on a bylaw or anything in regards to the HOA?
It depends on what your bylaws or charters say for your respective HOA. So the majority of HOAs that I've been part of, in order to have any sort of quorum, you have to have a certain percentage of people present or by proxy. So with a mail-in ballot or with a electronic ballot that gets emailed to you that you sign, you can give authority to the board to say these 25 or 35 individuals, maybe they're active service, active duty military, and they cannot be there because they're stationed elsewhere, but they have a property there that they rent out. By proxy, they're giving permission for the board to make the decision on their behalf. But every homeowner that's present or that's there that can mail something in can say, hey, this is what my vote would count as. I'll just give you a brief example. One of the HOAs in Hawaii that I was part of, the board did not want to have 50% quorum anymore. They wanted to be able to make decisions with 33% or less of the homeowners present or voting by proxy, and that's them taking the power out of the homeowner's hands.
Right.
So when I got my mail-in proxy, I voted by proxy. I said no. I said I do not agree with this. So I reached out to as many homeowners as I could remember that I had their email, phone number, whatever. I reached out to them and they said, yeah, we received this, Michael. What do you think? And so I said, well, do you want them to be able to make all decisions for you, or do you want to have any say in a homeowner association that you pay maintenance or HOA fees for? And the general response was, no, we want to have our say. And I said, then don't give the board more authority. So I actually just got an email right before Independence Day stating that they did not get enough votes to reduce the amount of people or proxies needed to have a smaller quorum. So now they're stuck with the majority that they have to deal with. But it's just because the board members are they're getting too greedy. They're tired of, oh, we need 66% of the homeowners and we never get it. Well, maybe if you did your job and you were thorough and you actually reached out to people with enough time, maybe it could work. I understand it's not easy to corral all the cats, but at the same time, that's part of your fiduciary responsibility.
Okay. I think it's a little bit we talked about HOAs, but what happens when there's no HOA? Because there's pros and cons to everything. And I can tell you, I have my home somewhere where there's no HOA. And I can tell you that it looks kind of janky. I love it because there's no HOA, but, an HOA community usually has better kept areas. There's amenities. This place has no amenities, and there's no, regard for anything. The neighbor can have the grass as tall as he wants. And
so here's the best rebuttal I have for you on that, and I agree with you. The majority of neighborhoods that are not HOAs, yeah. The neighbor has the rusty old clunker in the driveway or in the front yard.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. There's pros and cons. I'm not going to say the name of it, but the HOA that you and I are currently part of.
Yeah.
My neighbor's house looks like the Addams family home.
Oh, my God.
Their home is not maintained. Their yard looks like absolute crap. And they don't take care of it. My wife and I...
It's an adult show, and it's past 21. You can use heavy words.
Okay, their home looks like absolute shit. And,
there we go.
And we've brought this to the attention of the board of directors multiple times. My wife and I have busted our butts trying to maintain our home. I'd say we have one of the most appealing properties on the street that we're on.
Okay.
But our neighbor's home looks like the Addams family. And it's in our bylaws. You have to maintain. They don't maintain.
So you're saying that this happens no matter what?
At a board meeting once upon a time, I don't know if you saw the video or not, but there was a recording by another neighbor where one of the maybe current or past board members openly said that they actively engage in selective enforcement. And when they were asked, well, what are you doing to mitigate this? He pretty much said nothing. So he openly admitted to the homeowners at that meeting that every day there's selective enforcement. Every day people get fined for this, and other people or homeowners don't get fined for the same thing. And the question was asked, well, what are we doing to fix it? And they said nothing. So, in my opinion, when you go down that road of selective enforcement, the problem you run into is, okay, for those that are receiving fines or citations or violation notices, that's a slippery slope, because if it's blatantly obvious that you're fining house A for not having pressure washed their driveway in 2 or 3 years and it clearly needs it, but house B and C do the opposite, whether they take care of their driveways but they don't do it at the 6-month interval that's recommended or whatnot, you can't fine house B and C when you're not fining house A. And then the slippery slope here, not that this should even be part of the equation, but, as it's been witnessed previously at a certain HOA that I think you know which one I'm talking about, when you're finding homeowners that are predominantly Caucasian and letting minority homeowners off the hook with everything.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right.
Then it becomes discrimination.
Right.
And that's something that I may or may not be familiar with as far as being targeted by that. And I will say that the best way to enforce everything equally and to more or less fix HOAs, in my opinion, is make it so that the board of directors, all elected officials, can be legally held accountable.
Right. That's great. That it should be like that.
It's not like that in all states, but it should be.
So, since HOAs, having an HOA and having no HOA comes with problems, both, what do you pick? HOA or no HOA?
As of right now, I would say no HOA. Same token.
But then how do you enforce it? You can't, when you have no HOA, then you run into the problem with the guy with the old clunker. You can't go in there and tell him anything.
But that's the thing is you don't have to live in a neighborhood with homes that are within 10, 15, 20 feet of you. You can always buy a home or build a home on land. That way your neighbor is a few acres away from you, and it's kind of it's a moot point at that junction.
Okay.
So if you have a home, I'll spitball a few town names out there. If you live in a place like Callahan or Hilliard or Stark.
Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
In the great free state of Florida.
The Gunshine State.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But if you live in a place like Callahan, Hilliard, or Stark, where you probably have a fair amount of distance between you and your neighbor, it's not going to matter because you're not going to notice it. All people are going to care about is, oh, you have a 2,000, 2,500, or 3,000 square foot home on 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 acres of land. Well, guess what? The land's more valuable. So who cares if they have a clunker? You're not even going to notice it.
Okay. Well.
And then at that point, because there's no HOA, you have this thing called code enforcement, which can enforce certain building codes or infractions. So there's still enforcement regardless. It's just not from an in-house entity.
Right.
It's from a county or city entity.
Right. So in that case, going with no HOA would be a better choice if you're going to have the law on your side when you're deciding to enforce anything and they're actually going to do something about it.
Correct.
Okay. Well, then.
Like, for example, my wife is from just south of St. Augustine, Florida, an area around the Palm Coast neck of the woods. And I made a comment to her when I met her. I said, wow, Palm Coast is nice. And she said, no. The city's a glorified homeowners association. The city will fine you. The city enforces things that HOAs would typically fine you for. So naturally, I thought it was stupid. I was like, wow, that's a little overkill. It's like, oh my God, they're being like the dreaded Gestapo or whatnot. But comparing how consistent the city of Palm Coast, Florida was being and how they were consistent and fair and equal in their enforcement of everything in the city.
But guess what? Those people are getting paid for their positions. Those people that are enforcing
not
these
all
laws.
of them.
Some of them are voluntary?
Yes.
Some. But it's not like in an HOA where the whole board is
There are HOAs. There are HOAs where boards are paid.
Okay. I haven't experienced that. So
there's a few. I don't remember the names of them offhand, but I do know that there's a few. But after comparing how Palm Coast was and how equally everything was enforced, I started to realize, wow, where we live,
right,
I had a little more respect for the equal and fair enforcement of everything.
Okay.
And I may or may not have mentioned something similar to that to the board of directors, and they slapped it in my face and said, swim in your own lane. I'm like, no. My lane as a homeowner in this HOA.
That's what I was just going to say. What do you mean swim in your own lane when you have a right to voice your opinion because you're a homeowner in that neighborhood? So it's not swim in your lane. It's listen to me. I actually pay taxes and I own a home in this neighborhood, and my voice needs to be heard.
I wish it was that simple.
Yeah. Politics, huh?
I feel like politics drives everything these days, and it's absolute BS.
Right.
Speaking of which, did you happen to see... Actually, I'll just wrap up that segment on HOAs right quick, but I firmly believe that if the law in the state was that if you feel a fiduciary responsibility on a board of directors, you could be held legally responsible if you make decisions that are not within the best interests of the majority, I feel like that would straighten out a lot of HOAs and board of directors. A lot. Knowing that you could be held legally and financially responsible if you intentionally do something that's wrong, like use a HOA attorney as your own attorney for the board of directors and burn through all those HOA funds because you want to prove a point or because you're too pig-headed to admit you're wrong. Yeah, that's what we call misappropriation of funds.
Yeah, so it sounds like we need more government/authority or official entity involvement in HOA business.
I would agree with you there. I would.
Yeah, I agree too. Defund the HOA.
Might as well. defund the media, defund the HOA, fund the police, fund firefighters, fund
the military,
civil service.
Which you fund with your taxes, but fund them more.
Yeah, more than Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, did you see the debate with President Biden and former President Trump?
I happened to catch a few highlights, but I did not sit. How long was it? 2 hours? An hour and a half?
It was about 90 minutes.
90 minutes? Yeah, I did not sit to the whole 90 minutes.
That was including the commercial breaks. But
okay.
I will be honest. I had my concerns with CNN because they're a very democratic, very liberal media network that is anti-Trump in every sense.
And that's known.
Yes, and that's a known thing. I actually felt that the CNN anchors were pretty neutral.
I agree. From what I saw, and I say I only watched the highlights, I agree.
I was surprised. And it shocked me beyond all belief that Fox News was streaming it, Newsmax is streaming it, CNN streaming it. All these major news networks are streaming it. And if you looked at the bottom of the debate highlights after they did some fact checking, and I found it to be absolutely hilarious that President Joseph Biden Jr. openly said, Customs and Border Patrol endorsed me and coughed an attitude and became...
I saw that one.
And then almost immediately the director of Customs and Border Patrol said, not only have we ever not endorsed Joe Biden, we never will and never would.
I don't think that's something you do even if they endorse you. Like, why bring somebody else into the mix? This is a presidential debate. Like, it's a weak argument or weak, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say...
It's not that... It's the premise behind the fact that during the debate, you're supposed to bring facts to the table and show like, oh, this entity endorses me, this entity supports me. And because the border is a complete... I'll just say it's a disaster. It's a complete and utter disaster. And let's be honest. Customs and Border Patrol released information. The border was considered mostly secure under President Trump. Hardly any fentanyl was coming into the country. I'm not saying that drugs weren't making their way into the country.
Oh, they will always make it.
Right.
Because they'll find a way.
But it was nowhere near on the grand scale that it is right now.
Of course.
And you have...
And that's a fact.
And you've got these young women in Atlanta, Georgia, the Lake and Rileys, the young mother of 5 from, I believe it's Virginia. But you have all these young, beautiful women that are being raped and murdered by illegal immigrants. And you have a president who is more upset and willing to issue an apology at the fact that, oh, we accidentally called this person that's a suspect and is suspected of committing rape and murder an illegal immigrant. Cut the crap. Are you serious? This individual is suspected of murdering a young, innocent woman, a U.S. citizen, and you're going to apologize because, oh, yeah, we accidentally called the person that is suspected of killing them an illegal immigrant. Tough crap. Are you serious? Shame on you. That is the president of the United States openly saying, I'm sorry to all the illegal immigrants I did this, instead of saying sorry to the mothers, the families, the parents of these innocent, these sweet, beautiful, innocent victims that never should have been victims.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, sorry, I just went off on a tangent right there, but...
That doesn't matter. Just to put this in perspective, most, if not all, countries in the world have borders for a reason.
Yes.
Because it's like your home.
Yes.
You don't leave your door open when you're going to sleep
No,
so anybody can come in your house and take a nap. Kind of, maybe far off an analogy, but it's true. It's your home. It's your place where you live. You don't.
It's where you lay your head at night.
Right. You want to be safe.
So my question is to the Nancy Pelosi's, the Joseph Biden Jr.'s, the Kamala Harris's. If you say the border's so secure, which has been proven false, it is not secure. Customs and Border Patrol said it is a disaster.
The entity said it.
Yes. The people in charge of Customs and Border Patrol have openly stated the border is almost completely out of control. So when you have those entities confirming that, okay, right there, the president's caught in a major lie. And then at the bottom of the screen, it was on CNN and Newsmax is where I saw it. It said, under President Biden, 55% of military families are worse off than they were under Donald Trump.
That's sad.
So the majority of the military is worse off now? And Joseph Biden Jr. claims he supports the military far more than former President Trump. Well, that's a big lie. And then I believe it was CNN. They tried to cook the numbers a little bit, but because it was already broadcast out, they couldn't. I saw on several major news networks, the number went from 55% to anywhere from 58 to 62% of military families were far worse off under President Biden than they were under President Trump.
Oh, that's terrible.
So that's just straight up negligence of the so-called president, so-called commander-in-chief, not doing his job, taking care of the military. And I'm sorry. I'm being honest. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. The other thing that I found appalling is that you ask straight up questions like about the economy. The CNN anchors straight up told President Biden, they told him, you inherited 1.4% inflation. It is 9+% under your watch. And then he straight up denies it, says, well, no. You see, and then he spins his lies, because everything he says is a lie, and tries to make it sound like Trump did it. And then the CNN anchors corrected him, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and said, no, sir, you inherited 1.4% inflation.
And these are facts. If they're asking you, it's because they have statistics and cold hard proof of this. That's crazy.
It's like, there's a lot of things I've seen on social media, a lot of things I've seen on the news about how the debate was good because it showed just how weak the president is right now. And it's true, the president is weak. The president is not fit. I'm sorry.
That is true.
He's not. Is it his age? I'd like to think age doesn't have anything to do with it. I know one of my aunts that was well into her 90s. She was sharp as a tack. She could have a full-blown conversation with you about just about anything, and she was mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me that age has something to do with it. There's other issues going on, but it is clear as day that he is not up for the job, not up to the task. In addition to that, he's been like this his whole time in office. CNN, MSNBC, The View, all these left-leaning networks have all covered it up and lied. They knew about this, and there's no way they didn't. Every time he fell, President Biden had a little accident there, blah, blah, blah.
Like when he fell off the bike?
Fell off the bike, fell up the stairs going on to Air Force One how many times? Fell on the stage at either the West Point commencement ceremony or the Air Force commencement ceremony, literally after addressing the cadets, and then falls over. Come on. Like, that's ridiculous. That's embarrassing.
I kind of playing devil's advocate here, but,
You would.
He falling down the steps, here and there, okay. It's a physical thing, right? Wasn't FDR on a wheelchair?
Yes.
Right. So physical is not what makes you unfit. It escalates. Like, it's more than that with Biden. It's mental.
There's a lot more with it.
It's mental.
One of the things that appalled me the most, that I absolutely was taken aback by, was the fact that Robert Hur, a pretty well-respected attorney, he's not a bad attorney,
Okay.
did the interview with Biden, asked him a lot of things, and let's all agree to this. Former President Trump was legally allowed to have classified documents at his residence at Mar-a-Lago because he was the former president. He has the legal authority to declassify anything he wants.
Okay.
But yet, Robert Hur does not recommend charges against Biden for having classified documents from when he was a senator. Senators aren't allowed to have classified documents.
That's different.
Exactly. Yeah. He's not allowed to have classified documents.
Not allowed.
Oh, wait. He also had classified documents from when he was vice president. Again, not allowed. So the man's clearly committed crimes, multiple documents, and then a special counsel says, oh, yeah, the jury would have a hard time convicting him because he's an old senile man who is very forgetful.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
He's fit to be president, clearly.
And that's my argument. If you're fit to be president, you're fit to stand trial.
Exactly.
And you're fit to be convicted in due time.
Just like the HOA. If you're fit to be a board member, you're fit to face the consequences of your bullshit. I agree. I totally agree.
I don't know. I guess in my opinion, it's like, and again, I'm trying to be neutral when I say this. I don't want the person with the big smile who's always chuckling, laughing, telling BS lies day in and day out. I'm pretty sure Biden's been caught in more lies during his presidency than the last 2 or 3 presidents put together. Like, his lies are stacking up to the point where even CNN is starting to say that he's straight up the most compulsive liar they've ever met or heard, which to me is funny.
Well, they want him to step down. Not CNN, but the Democratic Party, right?
Hell, from what I understand, there's Democratic governors, there's Democratic senators, congressmen, congresswomen, even people on his own staff are telling him to step down.
But who's telling him to stay in the race? His family, right?
His family, because his wife's an elderly abuser. His wife wants the title. Her wife... His
elderly abuser?
Jill Biden wants to get her Vogue photos taken. She wants that paycheck from being on the cover of Vogue or vague, because all she is vague, and he's even more vague. Hunter needs daddy in the White House so he can give him a pardon because he got convicted for being a dumbass and purchasing a weapon when he wasn't supposed to have a weapon. I mean, you name it. I mean, you look at Trump versus Biden, and again, for any of the listeners that we may have out there, I'm not trying to be biased on this, but open your eyes. The facts are staring you in the face. This guy is not fit to be president. He has weaponized the justice system. It is lawfare. It is. And I'll tell you right now, I give President Trump every prop that I can because this guy has not backed down at anything. But then again, when you're not guilty, you don't back down.
That's true.
I mean, you fight the good fight until it goes in your favor. And I will tell you right now, I don't remember the New York Justice, Aragon or whatever his name is, and the other one, I forgot their names.
It seems like this ties...
They are complete and utter jokes, and they are an embarrassment to the justice system.
Right. It seems like this ties a lot into our first conversation that we had here on our first episode of, I lost my train of thought. What did we talk about in the first one?
Something about guns, social media.
No, it's got to do with Biden.
I don't remember. There's so many things you can say about Biden that are bad because they're all true. Oh, how about this?
There's facts.
There's facts. I'm gonna turn the tables on you a little bit. So I used to be on Nextdoor because...
what is Nextdoor? Explain to the folks that don't know what that is.
It's the pseudo social media Facebook site for homeowners associations that you're required to be a member of because you're in an HOA.
Okay.
That's the gist of it that I got. So anyways, I posted something on Nextdoor about the presidential debate. I took some pictures from CNN. Oh, there it is. It just came up. I took some pictures from the TV, from CNN, Newsmax. I think most of them are from CNN. And it clearly states on Nextdoor is a place to discuss topics that are important to your local community. We have rules on where members may post about religion, non-local, and political issues. So I dug into it more, and it clearly says as long as you post facts, it is okay. So I posted screenshots saying that 55% or more of military families were worse off under Biden than they were under President Trump.
Where are these facts coming from, though?
CNN,
Okay.
the debate.
Okay.
So I posted 2 or 3 screenshots of facts, stuff that you cannot deny. You might not like it, but tough luck. You don't like my facts? Believe your false narratives. I don't care. You're just stupid.
Right.
And then the other one, and I clearly stated, being in the service, it's really sad to know that the majority of the military is worse off under our current president than our previous president. And then I said it's also very unfortunate that our current president lied and said that Customs and Border Patrol endorsed him when they openly said they never did, and they factually endorsed Trump. Nextdoor suspended me for spitting false information when it is true. So Nextdoor is a bunch of dumb liberals from friggin' San Francisco that, oh my God, my Democratic president that I love so much, who's a compulsive liar, he's under attack by this petty person on Nextdoor. I must silence him. I must take away his First Amendment right. Well, I might not have a First Amendment right on social media, but I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court stated that social media cannot censor information if it's true.
Facts. I remember what I was going to say. It seems this ties a lot into our first episode, where it seems like people will prefer somebody that's PC, politically correct, versus somebody that's blunt and tells you the truth to your face. So they like somebody with the big smile that lies compulsively with no facts behind them.
None at all.
And then they prefer that just because this guy is not the deliverer of bad news.
I may not be the most religious person on this earth, but I will tell you, there's 2 genders. There's men, there's male, and there's female. And I'm sorry. In the military, you're not supposed to serve if you have mental disorders, if you have problems. It's no harm, no foul to you. I am appalled at the fact that they would rather have the military take somebody out of active service for up to 18 months so they can do a gender transitional surgery. Because we need to be so diverse with the military. Oh, we need to have the most transgenders, the most gays, the most queers, the most blah, blah, blah. Russia, China, North Korea.
They don't do that
None
shit.
of them give a damn about how diverse we are. All they care about is, do we have a chance if we go up against the United States of America? Do we have a chance if we go up against the U.S. military? And if the answer is, oh, no, we don't care if we can go up against them, because all they care about is how many queers, how many gays, how many transgenders they have. Oh, guess what? They ain't ready to fight. We're going to kick their asses. It's that simple.
Right.
And that's the facts. DEI, diversity, equity, or equality, inclusiveness.
Inclusion, yeah.
Whatever the hell the dumb thing stands for. That is a bunch of people, a bunch of cop-outs who weren't good enough because they didn't have the merit, they didn't have the credentials to make their way to the top. They didn't work hard enough to get to the top. That was their cop-out. Oh, we should do this. We should hire this person, put this person in this position because their skin color, or because, oh, they're gay, oh, they're queer, oh, they're transgender, even better. They have no qualities. They can't even type. Because just remember, the pencil spelled the word wrong, not you. Remember, the car drove the wrong way and was the reason.
If it was a Tesla.
And was the reason you got the DUI, not you. So DEI is literally a cop-out of people that were too weak, too pathetic, and don't have any merit because they didn't try. It was a way for them to get to the top without putting in any effort and actually working their way up there. DEI is a complete joke.
Sounds like it.
It is. And when my business takes off and running, when I'm a civilian wearing the best uniform ever, casual clothes every day, my Under Armour and relaxing, or my dry fit, DEI will not be anywhere in my small business at all.
No, it doesn't work. Go woke, go broke.
What was that? Go woke, go broke? I'm sorry. For those in the back that couldn't hear you, could you say that one more time, please?
Nah, go woke, go broke. Like
Bud Light, Target, Disney. Oh, man.
the whole, and I don't have anything against.
Did you see Tractor Supply Company?
Yeah, they said they're not supporting any more LGBTQIA plus whatever all the letters are,
The best
because they're literally fed up.
The best move for any company, and I'm talking to the Walt Disney Worlds, I'm talking to the Targets, I'm talking to the Bud Lights out there, I'm talking to all these entities that decide, oh, we need to do DEI, oh, we need to be woke. If you ain't woke, oh God, you ain't hip. Stay neutral.
Yeah, that's
Stay politically neutral.
And that's where I was going. I was going to say, the whole point of a business is not to make it about gender or sex.
No.
It's about to sell your
product and make
Yeah.
money and take care of your employees.
Absolutely.
Apolitical is the correct position. And
Yep.
I will tell you right now, if you look at it, most of the conservative businesses out there, which there are conservative businesses out there, they're becoming few and far between, but the conservative companies out there are the ones that are thriving right now. The ones that are now like Tractor Supply Company, because they've now taken a neutral stance, said, hey, we're going to focus strictly on this and we're not going to support transgender and all this alphabet soup crap. They're doing better now because they said that. It's the business model. I don't know, man, like, I will tell you right now, my business, and maybe in a later episode we'll talk about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. If you want to be successful, have morals, have standards, don't get involved with politics, and
Enforce the bylaws.
enforce the bylaws.
Enforce the laws, baby. That's the key here.
I will tell you right now, I am not ashamed by any stretch to say that I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not. And I don't care if you're a liberal, a Democrat, a libertarian, a conservative, a Republican. I don't care. I will straight up say I voted for Trump twice, and I'm looking forward to voting for him again a third time, because he ran the country like a business, and we thrived. We thrived.
Yeah.
You can't deny it.
But you also said on the first episode that you were open to debate if it was backed up by facts, right? Like, you're open to listen to anybody's. You're not shutting down anybody else just because they think differently. You want to inform, educated, based on facts conversation, which makes sense.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I may be a registered Republican. That doesn't mean I am condemned or a blind loyalist to the Republican Party. If there's a Democrat that shares my values, my views, my standards, my morals, okay. If the Republican doesn't align with my beliefs, yeah, I could see myself punching a Democrat ticket at some point. I could absolutely see that. I'm not a one-way ticket.
Okay.
I've never voted straight ticket. The last election I voted in Florida in 22, I actually voted. There were two Democrats I did vote for, and the reason I voted for them was I did about 15, 20 minutes worth of research on them, and I found out that two of them had phenomenal backgrounds for the positions they were running for, and they were very well favored. They just, I don't know, maybe they couldn't run on the Republican ticket. I don't know what it was, but I chose them over the Republicans because they actually looked like good candidates, and since they were voted in because they won, they've actually been doing excellent. They've been thriving. I'm not a straight ticket guy. I will say that right now it'd be hard for me to even give Biden an ounce of credence. I'm not a huge fan of RFK Jr. just because I feel like he's another wolf in sheep's clothing. I feel like he plays both sides of the aisle, but he doesn't have anything like concrete. The only place that I'm a little sensitive with, and my wife's in the medical field, so she's a very smart woman, I do not condone abortions up until the 11th hour right before you give birth. I don't, unless there's a threat to the mother's life, a threat to the baby's life, or something dire. I'm sorry. There's adoption. There's plenty of contraceptives out there. I feel that this teeter-tottering on something that's not even a constitutional right should not be something that's in play. That's just my opinion.
Agree. Totally.
But overall, I think that HOAs have a long ways to go before they get to where they should be or need to be. I think that debate opened up a lot of people's eyes. I mean, there's states right now where I believe we're, 87 to 90 days away from early voting starting. Speaking of which, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to leave Biden in? Do you think they're going to pull him? Like, what do you think is going to happen here?
I think he's going to stay in.
That's what my wife was telling me today. We're up for a drive. She thinks
he is the president. He does not want to step down. He has people, his closest people or his inner circle is telling him to stay in. So it only makes sense that he would stay in. It doesn't matter what anybody says.
So I looked up the polls right now. You can look it up on your phone, actually, if you want to. But I firmly believe right now, Jersey's in play. New Jersey, I believe Trump has a slight lead against Biden. Virginia, it says he's tied. New York, I'm not going to say it's like tied, but it's getting close in New York.
Okay.
I'm even hearing that New Mexico is up for grabs. Arizona, I'm pretty sure it's going to go back to Trump. Nevada is now in play. Utah is definitely going to Trump. Georgia's got a lead. All the major swing states that Biden needs to win, Trump has a lead in. And the states that, generically, historically speaking, would go blue, like Virginia, New Jersey, New Mexico, I think those are in play.
Yeah.
Hell, I even think New Hampshire's in play.
The way it's looking, it looks like it's a landslide. But anything can happen, nowadays.
Yeah.
Technology, mail-in ballots, and...
Cheating.
Power outages at 1 a.m. and stuff like that.
Water main breaks in Atlanta, Georgia. I will always say I find it very interesting that Argentina has a huge voting population. Huge, massive, almost comparable to that of the United States. They had their election results in less than 24 hours.
Nice.
For, what is his name, Milei or Maley?
Javier Milei.
Great guy. He has been doing fantastic.
He's been killing it. He's reducing inflation as we speak. But he's taking drastic measures, as anybody in his position should do.
He's delivering for the people of Argentina. He's doing wonderful things for that country, and they love him.
Yeah.
They have I guess it's the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party down there.
I'm not super familiar with what they have, but...
So to my understanding, it's not the Democrats and the Republicans, it's the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party, I guess. And it was a landslide for conservatives, and he's been doing wonderful things for Argentina. They're going to be a very strong, independent country here. If they're not already now, they're
really hope so.
They're damn well on their way, but they had their results in less than 24 hours. How is it that Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, all these states couldn't get their results in 2 weeks? Cut the crap.
Yeah, no, that's too much.
Everybody knows when election night is. Everybody knows when it is. There's no secrets, no surprise. Either you put your ballot in early when you get it, which I don't really condone mail-in ballots unless...
So cutting them some slack. 48 hours? Tops?
You should have the results on election night.
So 24 or less?
24 or less, absolutely.
Okay.
Because think about it. Hawaii and Alaska, technically, you can have a little bit of a delay because of where they're located geographically.
Yeah.
But by that point, you should already know who's the president-elect. I will tell you that if another state decides, we'll accept mail-in ballots up to 9, 10, 12 days after the election, as long as they're postmarked by a certain date, we'll accept them 9, 10, 12. Cut the crap.
Yeah.
You knew when election night was. Either you got your ass out there to vote or you submitted your ballot early enough. I think it's going to be a complete and utter landslide. And honestly, and here's the sad part. You have a lot of people out there that they can't swing their way out of a paper bag. If Biden doesn't win again, oh my gosh, inflation's coming down to 3%, 2.5%, 2%. Oh my God, I have more money in my purse, more money in my pocket.
Tweets.
More money in the bank. Oh my God, the fuel, it's down 40%. I can actually afford to fill my vehicle more easily now. Groceries are more affordable. This is horrible. I would laugh in anybody's face that complains about that. And I know neighbors from South Carolina that moved to Carlsbad that would absolutely throw a hissy fit. Oh my God, Trump's back in office. Inflation's now rock bottom and interest rates are low and people can afford houses. This is horrible. Wow. How anti-American are you?
That is true. That is true. Hey, to wrap this up, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts on what? Like
HOA?
Oh,
well, we only talked about HOA and Biden and Trump.
I will say that if elected board members that serve as board of directors could actually be fair and equal in enforcement of their bylaws and actually keep a standard, HOAs would be great. the one that you and I originate from is clearly subpar. But don't worry, it's going to change. I assure you.
I sure hope so.
I don't want to say it, but there may or may not be a certain individual that may or may not have a trump card to help fix that problem.
There we go.
As far as the debate goes, there's going to be another debate. Trump already agreed. I think he wants to debate Biden, and at some point he wants to debate Harris, or both of them at the same time, which, one fist for each individual.
Is he debating RFK at all?
I don't know.
We'll see.
I know he agreed to a second debate with Biden, and I think he even offered to debate Harris. I'm not sure, but I think, folks, if you're really happy with the inflation right now, you're really happy with 2 different wars going on and all the horrible things happening, then vote for Biden. Go ahead and vote for it. Vote for the guy that falls on stage. Vote for the guy that falls going up the stairs on Air Force One. Vote for him. If you want law and order, you support our men and women in blue. You support the military.
And you support America.
And you support the United States. Who cares if you get a couple mean tweets here and there? Number 1, they're probably factual. Number 2, there's probably a good level of humor behind it. Number 3, it's American.
That is your right.
God bless America. God bless our troops.
Amen.